Welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. Everybody's talking about eggs right now, so I figured, why not us? We'll talk about eggs just a little bit. We definitely do not have an egg shortage around here. We have had a blessed winter for egg production. Guys, thanks for stopping in at Piney Woods. We're going to talk about eggs a little bit. We're going to do a few things else too. Y'all hit the like and subscribe if you hadn't, and if you have, as always, we appreciate y'all. Let's get into it. Y'all, before I get to talking about eggs too much, yeah, it's humid out here. You'll hear me sucking wind just a little bit. Cold and humid. Cold and soaking wet. I told Lisa this morning, I said, I really want to get down here and work on the slab pile, because there's a project upcoming right behind it. We're going to expand the wood yard, y'all. We're going to be able to hold between 10 and 12 cord over here in this other one, and we've about got it full. We're going to expand this way and continue to expand so that we'll have several wood yards to pull from. Our goal here for our business model on our little homestead is 30 cord. We want to build and store 30 cord, sell 30 cord a year. That's it. That's enough for the two of us, not doing it for a sole source of income, but for a major source of income still at the same time. But guys, I got to get all that stuff moved, but it's just so sloppy wet, y'all. I stood down here and looked at it for, I know, about 15 minutes, and I was just like, I really don't want to get the excavator over here on this. My gravels are still pretty tight around the sawmill. So y'all, what I've been doing, now that I have been long-winded, some people have probably already clicked off, is what it is. But I can be long-winded sometimes, y'all. What I've been doing is pulling out of this slab pile right here. There is still some usable lumber in here, y'all, for building these firewood bunks. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you know, this is something that reminds me of life in general and of myself. I'm not perfect by any means. If you were going into the lumber yard to look for perfect, straight, dimensional lumber for a project, and I was a piece of lumber, you'd look right over me. But fortunately, God sees the good, even in old, scraggly stuff like that. I consider myself kind of getting old and scraggly, and I feel like God sees the good in me. I know He does, actually, and if you look back in His good book, you can see examples of that all throughout history. So that's a little word for you today. Even though you may be old and scraggly, or just scraggly, God can still use you if you'll let Him. So we're going to get over here and talk about eggs just a little bit, and it's kind of, you know, like some excitement in the air here in news and around, I guess, channels online, people talking about the cost of eggs and the shortness of eggs and this, that, and the other. So we'll talk about eggs and how it really relates to us here on our little homestead. All right, so let's talk about eggs for just a few minutes, y'all. That's a lot of eggs. That's more eggs than Lisa and I would probably consume in a week. With that said, I want to talk a little bit about some rough economics of raising eggs on your homestead, raising chickens that producing eggs for you, and is it worth it? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, right now on average we're getting about a dozen eggs a day. I think Lisa said 14 the other day. That may be about right. She collects the eggs, but around a dozen would be a fair estimate a day for what we're getting. And y'all, it's middle of winter. But the birds don't realize that. Here in our part of North Carolina, we really haven't had a winter. We've had a few cold days. Chickens stopped laying for about a week, and they picked right back up. And so we're getting just as many eggs now with limited daylight as we get in the spring. Now, it will increase in the summer. The longer the amount of daylight, the more eggs you'll get. And y'all, high quality feed. If you're going to raise chickens, do not try to skimp on a high protein, plant-based, if you can, diet for your chickens. And yes, I know that chickens and our pigs, they can eat anything. We just like to give them that clean, no animal byproduct feed. And we've had really good results with it, y'all. And I think the proof is in this little basket of eggs right here. And we've got way more eggs, y'all. Lisa washes eggs every week. We sell eggs some from time to time when somebody wants some. We give them to family members that need them when they're in need of them, or anybody that needs them, really. And y'all, we put up a lot for long-term food preservation. I watched this video, not a video, I read this book years ago that a friend of mine gave me at my old job to read. It was called 1 Second After. Maybe some of you have read it. And it kind of opened my eyes to the need to have some longer food preservation techniques or some longer food storage than what I had at the time, which was every time you get a paycheck, go spend half of it at the grocery store, the other half on mortgage or rent, and live like that. But ever since then, I have looked for ways to kind of put food stores back, not for as much as a big, huge emergency like's in that book, if anybody's read it, but just for the simple fact that chickens quit laying as much in the winter, generally, or to kind of hedge against the cost of items in the grocery store, the stuff that it's used in the practice of producing that may be harmful to me or my family. So we have really scaled up production on our homestead. We try to keep anywhere from a year to a year and a half, 2 years if we can, of long-term food storage. And y'all, we eat through that. It's not just stuff we put up, look at it, looks pretty on the shelf. We eat it. We eat through it. That's our grocery store. The vegetables, the meat, the eggs. We don't have a dairy cow, so not the dairy, and we don't consume a lot of that anyways. Other than cheese, we do like that. So maybe a cow one day, but I don't know, just for 2 folks, 3 folks, I don't know if it's really worth it for us to have a cow. Maybe some beef, because you never know when the old Homestead hamburger might run out, so it'd be nice to have a steer out there. But back to the eggs. I kind of chase squirrels every once in a while, y'all. It cost us right now, rule of thumb, doing some quick basic math, about 15 cents an egg to produce it. And you may be like, oh my gosh. And yeah, I am like, oh my gosh, because I can remember it being less than 10 cents an egg to produce eggs based on the cost of feed. But let's say you get an overabundance of eggs. You store them this way. Lisa will bust them, crack them into silicone molds. She'll freeze them. She'll take that frozen cube, and usually she does 2 eggs to a cube. We've got these kind of big ones. And she'll put them in gallon Ziploc bags, put them in the freezer. Generally, we will use those throughout the winter. It really is the same as a fresh egg. You thaw it out, you can fry it, scramble it, use it in whatever you're cooking, breads, pastries, what have you. Tastes the same, looks the same, everything's the same for the most part, as far as I can tell. We also scramble, vacuum seal, and freeze. I don't like that as good. The eggs are kind of grainy. When you reconstitute them, warm them back up, I don't really like it, but I will eat it. We've got some in there we got to eat through because we don't waste food around here, y'all. Even if it's not quality, top shelf like this fresh egg, we're still going to eat it because it's been processed, froze, put up to eat. We still consume it. We don't just waste it. And we also dehydrate. Don't really like that method at all. That's just one of our longer term storage solutions in case something like that book 1 Second After ever happens. hey, we got some eggs on the shelf that we can eat. It may not taste great, but we can still eat it. And it's not always about how tasty is it if you really got to have it. I've always told folks, and I probably heard this somewhere, I'll ask folks, what is the best seasoning for food that you can think of? And people would be like, salt, pepper, cayenne. I'll be like, no, none of that. Hunger. Hunger is the best seasoning for food. If a person's hungry, it doesn't matter if it is not top shelf or not. Like this fresh today egg. It could be that reconstituted from dehydrated egg. It's still going to be tasty if you don't have a lot to consume. But y'all, you can sell some eggs. We don't tell you how to make a bunch of money living on a homestead, raising pigs and chickens and vegetables. What we do is kind of a different angle. It's our angle. It's what we do. We show you how to produce these foods at a price that really is, if you're willing to do it, better than shopping at the grocery stores every 2 weeks when you get paid. And you get high quality food that has not been treated with anything you don't want it treated with. It's not been produced with anything you don't want it produced with. It's good, clean food. And in our opinion, that's the way to go. So, but talking about the eggs, guys, let's say you got to pay right now around home here $5 for a dozen. Well, this cost us probably close to $2 a dozen to produce. So if you're buying them in the store, you're paying $3 more for the dozen, but you didn't produce it. You don't have the flock of chickens. You don't have the feed costs and the time invested in that egg going into your refrigerator. So what's better, raising them or buying them at the store? Y'all, everybody's got to decide that for themselves. For us, it's raising them because we know that we have them. And worst case scenario, if we can't get feed, we can turn those chickens out and let them scratch for worms and hopefully not get pecked off by the hawks and bald eagles around here. Guys, hopefully that has given you some food for thought today between the lumber that I was pulling out of the old scraggly pile that most folks would pass up and not even use, and how God can still use people that are scraggly. He's done it all throughout time to accomplish his will. And he loves you, whether you are scraggly or not. So if you got any questions on that, shoot me an email. I'll try to help you out, or put a comment down below, whichever. And guys, about eggs. If you're like us, you're already living this way. If you're on the fence, get you a few chickens. Try it out. It's not going to break the bank. Guys, y'all have a good day, a great week. We'll see you on the next video.